something that appears to be a large obstacle in the way of growth as a person, as a human being, would be giving ourselves passes for poor behavior, excusing ourselves when we act out, when we get triggered, when we treat other people poorly, when we treat ourselves poorly, when we're inconsistent concerning our alleged ideas slash beliefs and actions, when we see that our lifestyle, our choices do not meet the minimum of certain criteria for quality and so forth. We see that quite often we give ourselves a pass such as we would not give to anybody else but ourselves. We excuse ourselves in a way that we would not concerning anybody else. And that would be one reason, it seems, why we stay so often stagnant in our psychological moral development. We do not mature into real adults, even if outwardly, numerically, we are supposed to be adults inside, we may well remain just as we were as children. And one of the reasons being that. Let's try to delve into this topic a little bit, perhaps taking some examples and trying to hopefully elucidate some kind of essential idea here that would be helpful. So we say that um, we have a concept of ourself, who it is that I think that I am. And then further, we have the reality of who it is that we are, such as is suggested by, say, spontaneous acts of ours, by spontaneous responses, by choices that we make when push comes to shove, when real self interest is involved, by how we behave on our bad days and when we don't feel so good, by how we respond to those that make us feel inferior, insult us, exclude us, and so forth. I can think that I am whoever, but who it is that I really am is a real reality, just as my body is a real reality, right? I can think that I have a body that is 20 feet tall. I can think that I have a body that is a centimeter tall, anything in between or otherwise. I can think that I can fly physically just by flapping my arms. I can think anything I want, but my body is a real, concrete reality. And so is, it certainly does seem, so is ourself. Right? It's just that we don't see ourself as we do our body. We can't touch ourself physically like this as we can our body, and yet it is still there. So we try to form a concept of ourselves. I am this kind of person, but who we really are in terms of our maturation, in terms of our mind, in terms of our ideas and what is and is not internalized, in terms of our true belief, in terms of our true selfishness, animality, self centeredness, self idolatry, or lack thereof, wherever we are at therein. There is certainly some real concrete reality. And that reality is difficult to discern. Again, it's not susceptible to the senses. It's not something that can be seen, smelt, and so forth. And yet it is there, and we sometimes get hints of it. Again, in some of the aforementioned instances, such as if somebody insults me, how do I react? If I have a bad day, how do I react? When my real interests are on the line, how do I act? Excuse me. So, for example, I can have a concept. I'm a very generous, sharing kind of person, sharing, caring kind of person. And yet, let's say that, and I believe that to be true about myself, but let's say then that one day my real self interests are on the line, such as if there is a family inheritance situation, I have to split some sum with my siblings. And there I may find, even to my own surprise, that I am quite the contrary, that I'm actually quite greedy and grasping, and I'm ready to tear my siblings apart for a bigger part of the pie. I think of myself as very peaceable, meaning peaceful and nice and this and that, very loving of all people. but I've never been in a tough situation that really tested me. Now, let's say, unfortunately, it happens sometimes. There's a war, I get drafted, go off to fight, and I'm in a situation where other people are participating in cruelty, where there's an opportunity for some kind of profit, some kind of pleasure, some kind of sadism, something like that. What do you know? I'm taking that opportunity, I'm availing myself of it, and doing something that I thought I would never do and could never do, and perhaps, goodness forbid, taking innocent lives and enjoying it and all kinds of things because I didn't really know myself. My self concept was this, and my actual reality of who I am is that. It's something different. So, here, however, more directly to the point would be that sometimes our true self gives off signs. Sometimes we get some hints about our real degree of development. And it is very important to take those hints at face value. It is very important to take those signs and read into them as much as is appropriate, as opposed to doing what we so often do, which is excusing ourselves. Again, giving ourselves a pass. If anybody else treated me like I treated this other person, I would just write that person off. But in my case, I had a reason. I had a bad day. I had a bad hair day. I wasn't feeling good about myself. If anybody else kind of freaked out at me on the road like that person did, I would be calling the police and at least and going crazy. But when I do it, well, it's okay because I had a good reason, right? The person really did something bad, unlike me, that kind of thing. Get the idea? When I lose my temper with my family, or it doesn't count. When you lose your temper with your family, oh, what a bad mother she is, what a bad father he is. Right? It's different for me because I'm me and I'm familiar with myself and I like myself or I don't like myself. But either way, I'm interested in making excuses for myself. So we say again that those very excuses, those very passes that we give ourselves, is what so often and so much prevents us from progressing because we never really see ourselves. We never really acknowledge ourselves, and ourself remains. I can maintain, believe it or not, a concept of being a very loving, peaceful person despite thousands of outbursts throughout my life, thousands of cases of unbridled aggression concerning others. How? By excusing each and every case. I had a reason here and a reason there and a reason there, and this is what happened, and so forth. I can remain at a very low degree of emotional maturity. How? Because every time that I get triggered, every time that I have some kind of spasm and I freak out on somebody and tell my loved ones I'll never talk to you again and who knows what, I say, well, I was just going through a tough time. It was just a bad day, yada, yada. And therefore, I remain just as I was. Now, to give the devil its due, we can say that there is always quote unquote an excuse in the sense of there's always a reason why a person acts the way he or she acts. We are always pursuing an apparent good. There never was, is, or will be one case where a person does something quote unquote for no reason, whatever that is supposed to mean at all, or a person does something for the sake of the bad, for in and of its own self. I can't do that. You can't do that. No other person, the worst people in the world, cannot do that ever. So there's always some reason. Here, however, the key would be to recognize that if I say mature, right? If I gain in maturity, there's not going to be any reason which will make me spaz out on my close friends and family members. If I genuinely go from being greedy and grasping to loving and giving, there won't be a reason that will have me fight over the last TV on sale. Right? And again, clash with my siblings over the inheritance. I want them to have more. So we get the idea. There's always a reason, given how I am, given that I do remain selfish, self-centered, greedy, grasping, all of that. There's definitely reasons for everything that I do. It certainly can be the case that a bad day brought out some bad side of me. It certainly can be the case that a bad mood had me say something that without that bad mood I wouldn't have said. But the reason those were reasons is because I am the way that I am. And if I begin to take those hints and clues that life sometimes gives me by my spontaneous reactions and such, then hopefully I can see my real self such as it is. I can gain that insight, and that insight is the first step to any real progress as a person. So it's worth considering. Thank you for listening.